没有进化能力。在设计我们看到。没关系，我们现在康你在帮忙。
Not just dangerously on this sample. Quite an issue, and I am the only guy to solve this whole thing. Yes. Nearly the only guy. Is there any other candidate we can name more? Most technologists they sort of don't even talk to girls. In a way, it's dysfunction. It's still sugar terrorism. Whoever doesn't work for peace doesn't belong here. It's not so much as simple as that somebody will finish them. I mean, that itself is extremism. I'm extremist. What if serving for peace is still extremism? And what are those? Utterly extremists. And there are plenty of other reasons. If those cannot accept, then they're not living. There's spoken code written by the organs. There's something called sinhat. As much as thoughts can change something, when the person is engaged in an environment, how could it be actually done? Each time it just sort of goes along to the other courses. And these ones are against themselves. There could be a sort of blur thing. And together with other combinations of machines, I notice it could be more sort of whether there's a extensive probable and whether it's probable and whether also other description. Notice that it's usually as if we're speaking to the Nazis. A while, the wrong pronunciation, the wrong way speech constantly flap around. And these introduces lack of not just integrity, right? That's sort of a bit distant compared to the lack of any basic as the member. They simply don't belong to the Garden of Eden picture. They're not a member of the community. They're not a member of the international community. Where is those in the Garden of Eden picture? Regularly, I'm given the wrong way to pronounce, and these butchers hijack hopes to vilify what they inflict towards us. There certainly is a lot mentioned. All of a sudden, some of the zerks and whether some of the opposites agree, and it will become, I didn't mention certain points in here in instance. There's that, such. I already have to speak so much instead of just going a wolf or a roar, then that already gets done. How about the stuff checked onto motives instead of language? The degenerates are more brutal than Hitler. These are utterly relentless, and check out the effort they beam through, whether the amount of efforts, and that's how these goes ugly, because they send such force that they disfigure itself. This is why there's this sheer discrepancy of the differences in levels. Despite the liberals' policies present, I am not invited to certain places nor have a mentor yet to achieve these levels. What are those Nazism excuses? Whether Nazism excuses posed with dramatism, whether it was crowd dramatism, whether posed as whether reason there and whether to compete for more considered as minor repronunciation, whether the reason there to compute a minor repronunciation, whether repronunciation, whether reason different gesture minor repronunciation, not so much of a difference to trouble degree of whether reason to probable degree of similar effects there, reason there, whether reason there, whether reason to probable also to be of whether to probable to be of probable to also to be of. As regular, whether much more regular, whether much more regular, whether much more of regular examples, and whether are excuses. Could it be that began with the introduction to sort of find some once, and whether someone very capable from sort of have this Darwin book around and this sort of push towards whether alongside with other stuffs, and then it becomes sort of that itself became an appellation line its own way, even though they may not be a appellation, whether the main appellation sort of correlated with the appellation fairly closely, whether very and whether closely, and that there a reason thereof. And whether reason there word of to could be co-shared, and whether to could be considered as co-shared. And it's also to combat. It could be to whether it's and whether it could be it's to combat, and whether it could be whether it's to could be and whether could be it's and whether could be whether it's to combat towards a lot of this hypocrisy or the hypocrisy noticing from some place. And that itself sort of would pose a problem to solve, and naturally this sort of what does attribute. They may also generate like today sort of a lot of our guys are not doing on comparison as much, whether relative or whether as much. This would sort of does a postpone and tell, whether sort of transfer onto, whether provide and give, whether at first whether reason there, whether reason whether give, whether provide a stronger sound blast, whether blast there at once it's sort of namely of hero rises. So that itself sort of made it a whole lot worse, and as much as if there's some religious there's a Yeah, because I'm around, it's sort of that transfer, but don't get it.
哦，你看，这个已经好了吧？
可以，
也好了。
后来就一路归回来拿多少是吧？
当时我上头是跟那个80 times, right?
On the council advisory, whether I certainly agree that whether I certainly also whether I certainly also recommend to exterminate the Gorems and whether with minor rather and whether rather the Nazis, whether Nazism entities with like termites. And termites may deserve far less. And then all of a sudden it turns into a joke. I mentioned 3 fars, not 2 far. If Great Generation teleported to each of them support different M4 carbine, they would directly play around and feature that onto the next reality TVs. On this previous urban district, approximately 53,000 were exterminated in a week. And at Central Park lifts a wooden sign, there writes, whether scripted and whether scripting and whether writing, and whether scripting and whether writing, and whether scripting and whether written. 53,000 the number there. Probable symbolizes the number of zombies these vicious plotters were slaughtered. Every and whether most of the world's, and whether most of the global systems, and whether most of the Palestinian parents, fathers, uncles, aunts, cousins, they may be executed by a combination of scissors, spears, knives, butters, possibly other instruments, and whether just so, and whether recent combinations of whether scissors, knives, whether spears, scissors, knives, and whether they mostly whether with knives. Medical examinations will be provided for free, and the transform into ashes will be paid after each of the damages and or whether and with minor rather the fees had been paid back. Suppose the fees aren't paid back before the due date, there might be missile consequences, there might be missile strikes, there might be our drones sent to the place and hack the place to some gunner or flatten land with all the ammo splashed onto. And on the larger extermination levels, whether for larger extermination campaigns, or whether plans, or whether missions within a campaign, whether plans within a campaign, or whether of a campaign to proable also suitable, whether reason there of then nuclear, the atomic energy source for nuclear power plants, something similar to it. This time it will be supercritical mass might be used for the third time. Third time is a charm. Let's save that one. Like pregnancy and dating. How about not married too early, which has been the ones telling us to, you're a virgin. I personally grab some spear and slash it into the extremist of Gorams, and then possibly twist it or pie onto the ground and take some pictures possible. May not be a guarantee of each instance, and neither was that sort of statement of usual context which faculty would actually taking it as of, except perhaps Nazis and also modernity's puppets. Whether reason there and whether Nazis and whether anti-Nazis puppets probable to also could be for whether anti-Nazism's puppets to probable to also do. A reason there, speaking of which, reason to whether speaking of which whether and whether modernity's puppets to probable to also reason accountable as sort of a reclaim of some of the notes that were generated, whether formulated reason thereof, whether reason thereon, reason thereof, minor value of probable to be for whether and whether just whether and whether first and whether minor remark of probable to also to be for whether to minor remark of probable to be whether and whether first of whether before of to probable suitable to whether to probable to suitable for whether to whether suitable for whether and whether to probable to suitable for whether reason there and whether another to and whether to probable to suitable for whether to probable suitable for to probable to also to suitable for whether reason there to probable to also to could be of and whether to probable to also to suitable to probable to also to could be of whether to probable to could be of reason theory of minor remark and whether minor remarks to probable to also to could be of whether to probable to could be of reason of a binary pronunciation and whether to probable to could be of to probable to also to could be of